Say to the daughter of Zion, Behold, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey, the foal of a beast of burden. In Matthew 21, Jesus gives instructions to his disciples about his triumphant entry into Jerusalem. This happened to fulfill prophecy, but so did his death and burial soon after. Without these events, often referred to as Jesus' Passion Week, his earthly ministry would not have an eternal impact. The Apostle Paul explains this truth in Colossians 2. And you who were dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made alive together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses by canceling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross. His death, burial, and resurrection ensured our reconciliation with God. In Jerusalem, each related site tells a crucial part of the story. The Mount of Olives stands to the east of the old city of Jerusalem. In the Old Testament, this mountain is sometimes mentioned in stories about Israelite kings who sinned against God with pagan idolatry. The prophecies of Ezekiel and Zechariah also mention the Mount of Olives. They describe God's glory returning to Jerusalem, and the mountain plays a significant part. From the top, it also provided an excellent view of Herod's temple, which Jesus visited in the New Testament as a young boy and during his adult ministry. In the Gospels, Jesus wept over the people of Israel's rejection of him as Messiah while overlooking the city. To begin the Passion Week, Jesus rode a donkey's colt down the Mount of Olives and entered into Jerusalem. This event is often called the triumphant entry. Later in that week, Jesus and his disciples visited a house to celebrate a Passover meal. The place is referred to as the Upper Room. Traditionally, this site is located on Mount Zion, just outside the old city walls. This site is believed to be the general location of several events described in the Gospels and the book of Acts. Jesus and his disciples ate the Last Supper, a Passover Seder meal, shortly before Jesus' arrest and crucifixion. Some people believe that this is where Jesus appeared to his disciples after his resurrection in John chapter 20. Others also believe that this may be the room where God poured out his Holy Spirit upon the disciples at Pentecost. After the Last Supper, Jesus and his disciples walked across the Kidron Valley and entered the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives. Jesus was grieved in his spirit about the events which were about to happen. He begged his Father for another way to save humanity, but in the end chose to obey his Father's will. Jesus was betrayed by Judas Iscariot and arrested by officers serving the chief priest in the Garden of Gethsemane. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre marks the traditional site of the crucifixion, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. The structure dates back to the 4th century. Helena, Emperor Constantine's mother, identified the location with the help of local believers. 6 Christian denominations share custody of the church, and a Muslim family holds the keys to the front door because of historical conflicts about which denomination has priority. The path to the church is known as the Via Dolorosa, which in Latin means the painful path. On this path, there are 14 stations of the cross used by pilgrims to reflect upon the events of Christ's suffering. Ironically, the Via Dolorosa's starting point is located near the pools of Bethesda, where Jesus healed a paralytic man, and the word Bethesda means house of mercy. Another site in Jerusalem is called the Garden Tomb. This site serves as an alternative to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Garden Tomb, its location is connected to a cliff which appears to have a skull-like shape. The cliff was discovered in the late 19th century, and the tomb near it fits the description of a tomb belonging to Joseph of Arimathea, where Jesus was buried. After the resurrection, Jesus ascended into heaven from the Mount of Olives. The book of Acts tells us that he was lifted up and a cloud took him out of their sight. As the disciples stood in awe at his departure, two angels promised that Jesus would return in the same way. While the time and the place of his return is uncertain, the Mount of Olives stands as a reminder that our Messiah will return.